Jeff Greenberg joining us from inside the ACC to talk Carolina football. And Jeff, obviously, as you're setting us up here, it's a ton of talent moves on to the NFL. Who's going to replace them? And it makes for a lot of banter that we can engage in because there's going to be a lot of position battles to discuss.
Absolutely. And one thing that will be, I just mentioned how relying on the defense may be a new thing for fans to get used to. The other thing that UNC has kind of stepped into the water this year with is the late end with grad transfers. That's not something they've really done in the past or had to do. But with the early departure of Mitch Trubisky, they didn't have any quarterbacks other than one that had any live snaps, meaningful snaps in the college football game. They recently, this last week, just got a commitment from Brandon Harris, the quarterback from LSU. And, you know, as I mentioned, the quarterbacks they have on the roster right now having very limited snaps. Harris comes in with 22 or game experience in 22 games, 14 of those being starts in the SEC. So, you know, there's one thing you can't teach and one thing you can't recruit is experience. So that will help. He should expect to come in and compete. Most grad transfers do expect to come in and start. Stanton Truitt at running back out of Auburn is another player that will help kind of replace the fact that they lost TJ Logan and Elijah Hood. He'll probably be more in the mold of TJ Logan. He can get out of the backfield. He's a speedster, and so that'll help bolster up the running back core a little bit. He has 15 games worth of experience at Auburn. Cameron Dillard, center out of Florida, 19 games start, 25 games of experience. UNC doesn't have a center that has a snap of experience at center. They had moved over someone from guard who's played other positions, but to actually get that game experience again at center is crucial. And then they also just picked up a grad transfer from Southern Cal, Khalil Rogers, who also has 9 starts under his belt and 20 games worth of experience. He'll probably be at a guard spot, but he's one of those guys that's willing to play anywhere right now. So what that's going to do is help on the offensive line. They have a lot of guys back, but they still have more experience to push those guys that are coming back. So I think what Coach Cap is going to like about that on the offensive line is the increased competition and experience that they just lost, considering they lost their center and they lost their guard. So you bring guys in to at least have that, you know, high-level SEC experience that should translate well. So the offensive line battle will be big. Obviously, when you think about a Coach Fedora offense, you're waiting to see, is there another Mitch Trubisky now? The quarterback battle will be important to watch. Brandon Harris is coming in, hoping to elevate that competition. But you do have 3 guys that have been taking the snaps all spring, and they will take the snaps all spring because Harris won't step foot, at least on the practice field, until fall camp. So battling out with him will be Logan Bird, Chaz Surratt, and Nathan Elliott, who's the only one that actually has some snaps in live action. Looking down the other positions, again, the good news is they had a receiver core that was unbelievable, all went to the combine, but that means you got to replace them. So look for Austin Prohl to be the leader in that group. Another one, walk-on Thomas Jackson, who had big catches last year against Florida State and some other key games. And then a combination of Jordan Cunningham, Anthony Ratliff, and Javal Millette will probably be the guys that sort of fill in those roles. One guy to keep an eye on is true freshman JT Cawthon out of Charlotte. I've seen him a few times in practice because he's an early enrollee. He's as big as a linebacker. So for a true freshman with that size, for him it's going to be all mental. Can he pick up the offense quickly? Can he pick up his responsibilities? But the athlete in the what you would call a prototype Terrell Owens looking type receiver, that's him. And then the last position group I see that you're going to see a lot of competition at is defensive back. Senior Donnie Miles and MJ Stewart have their positions locked down. I would expect Miles Dorn, who had a lot of playing time last year, to lock down a position, and probably Brene as well. But there's some guys that all had a lot of meaningful snaps, and the rest of the defense is kind of locked in with a lot of good depth, but the DB will be another area that they look at for some good competition this spring.